that brings us to Paul's monologue. And this one, for my money, is way more interesting. Now, let me just give a quick recap of what this whole hero's monologue thing is all about. So the purpose of the hero's monologue is to explain to the audience why the character is going after his object of desire. By its very nature, it assumes a classic story form, which has, by definition, a single protagonist who is in active pursuit of some goal. In other words, some object of desire. And that's Angus, right? I mean, that's what Angus is doing. He wants to see his father, and he is taking active steps toward achieving that goal. He seizes upon every single opportunity. But Paul is a passive protagonist. He does not have a clear goal that he is actively pursuing. I mean, yeah, sure, he wants things. He wants to get through the Christmas vacation as peacefully as possible. He wants to be left alone. He wants to read mystery books instead of babysitting the students. There's lots of things he wants, but none of them are objects of desire in the story sense. Instead, Paul spends the entire film, or almost the whole film, reacting to things that are done to him. Other characters, secondary characters, are active. Paul is passive, but everybody else is active. And this is essential. This is really important, because if the secondary actors or secondary characters were also passive, there would be no plot. I mean, when I say it like that, it sounds logical, right? I mean, it's almost like, Valerie, why are you even bothering to say that? You would be surprised by how often I read quote unquote literary novels that have no plot because everybody is passive. Some of them are unpublished authors. Some of them are published authors. That whole discussion of publishing we'll do that another day. But suffice it to say that every story, if it's going to work, if you're going to earn any money on the book, for it to have a hope of hitting a bestseller list, you have to have two things. You have to have characters and plot. You can't just have one or the other. Okay, let me give you an example. Miss Crane invites Paul and Angus to the Christmas party, right? Were it not for Mary and Angus prodding him, Paul would not have gone to the party. Even his refusal is passive. To him, it's understood that Miss Crane was only being polite when she invited him to the party, and she doesn't actually expect him to see him or Angus there, and so therefore an active refusal isn't even necessary. When she invites him, he smiles and he thanks her and says that's very nice. And that's it. It kind of surprises him when Angus says he wants to go, and it surprises him even further when Mary has a problem with it, because he can pass off Angus's desire to go, and what he sees is Angus's misreading of the situation as Angus's naivete. He's a kid. He hasn't matured enough yet. But Mary is a grown woman, and so he assumes that Mary understands from the situation that it wasn't a real invite, that didn't need an active refusal. So even from that, Paul is passive. All right, so far so good. Everyone is with me, I'm sure. The question then is, what does this mean for the hero's monologue? If the point of the monologue is to explain why the hero is actively pursuing an object of desire, but then you have a hero who is passive and doesn't have an object of desire, what happens? Does that mean there is no monologue? Or does that mean the monologue has a different function? Well, I think it's the latter. Because, here's why I think this. Because the audience or the reader still needs to understand what makes the main character tick. Instead of asking, why is the hero active? Why is the hero going after what they're going after? Why do they want it? Now we're asking, why is the hero passive? Why isn't he going after anything? Why doesn't he have an object of desire? That is just as valid a question, just as important a question, and your reader needs to understand why the character is passive, and it needs to make sense. It has to be a really good story reason. For Paul, I think the answer comes at about 1 hour and 39 minutes into the film.